I want to talk about the Oxfam scandal, about those pious, sanctimonious, middle-class lefties running Britain's charities who insist it's our duty to give more and be more compassionate to the world's disadvantaged. Well, it turns out some aid workers have been sexually abusing the disadvantaged in Haiti and elsewhere by sleeping with prostitutes, some of whom may have been underage. But there was no mea culpa from Oxfam. Their immediate reaction to the story was that it was old news. No apology for the hideous betrayal of the people they exist to help, or to the British people who they've conned and let down. The wickedness of those sleazy aid workers has made good, decent people mistrust all charities and think twice about giving. Oxfam has proved it can't be trusted with our hard-earned cash. So it's time this government stopped funding its failure and its debauchery. From now on, any charity that doesn't disclose details of sexual misconduct should have its funding suspended. And sacking those guilty of raping or abusing the vulnerable is nowhere near enough. They must be prosecuted to hell and back.
Carole.
Yes.
Well, I've worked with Oxfam extensively over the years, and I think they can be called many things. A failure isn't one of them. What happened with these aid workers is absolutely disgusting. We all agree with that. But they have a staff of over 5,000 people all over the world. Last year alone, they helped 11 million people. And if we look at how many incidents there are, there have been, 87 reported incidents. Out of 5,000...
Maybe more than that.
No, not for Oxfam.
Yes, there are.
No.
110 from overseas alone.
No.
Well, June, we've got different statistics.
Well, then we'll have to agree to disagree on that one. But my point is, when you've got an organisation that big, with that much bureaucracy, which I agree with it is a problem, you're always going to have some bad eggs. And those people were fired. So what are we saying? Well, let me finish. What are we saying? The behaviour of 6 or 7 criminal men, I agree with that, should jeopardise 11 million people. No, Carole.
No, the people that have jeopardised the 11 million people are these sleazy aid workers who have actually put all of the funding in danger. But June, you're talking...
You're talking...
Well, no, let me finish. I'll let you speak. So... You're saying 6 or 7 bosses. That's the fact. There were 4 fired last year. There have been many hundreds more have been reported for misconduct. And misconduct not being explained. You know, you could argue that Fred and Rose West were guilty of misconduct. This is endemic. There was a guy who written a piece this week said these rumours. You're closing your mind to what's happening.
He can't even justify where he's getting those statistics from. The guy who's saying there's thousands, he can't even justify.
It's not the guy who's saying there's thousands, it's been reported. The charities themselves have put out...
Carole,
Oxfam put out figures of... Oxfam, 268 people in the past 8 years. That's Oxfam have put those figures out themselves. Save the Children this week put out figures of 176 over the past 3 years. Bernardo's, 53 abuse cases over the past year alone. So that's the charities themselves. That's the ones that have been reported.
My point is...
Well, your point is you just said there was a handful. There's not. There's hundreds.
No. I'm talking about the Haiti. This is what I'm talking about.
Well, I'm talking about...
And what I'm saying is when you have an institution that large... In that many countries... No, we're not to expect it. But in that many countries... you are going to have some problems.
No, you're not. When people join an aid agency, June, they join it to help the most disadvantaged people in the world. And if they go to those parts of the world and they then abuse... Yes, but they have tainted the entire organisation.
No way.
Yes, they have. Read the papers today. Let me just say this. 60% of people are now saying they will stop donating to Oxfam.
That's rubbish. 54% of people are saying...
Stop trading numbers. Michelle.
As fascinating as your numbers are, and there's obviously disagreement on numbers, for me it's not about numbers. It's about integrity, and it's about how people have dealt, particularly senior people have dealt with what's gone on. And I struggle with Oxfam now. I personally would not donate any money to Oxfam going forward. And the reason I wouldn't, I don't doubt that they've done great work, but I struggle enormously, and I think it was Helen Evans did an interview where she actually exposed so many times where she'd flagged up...
She was the former head of safeguarding, just so all the viewers know of whom you speak. On you go.
And tell people what that means. That means if there's any allegations of misconduct or abuse, she's the person that was told.
Yeah, so she'd messaged and got in touch with the senior bosses multiple times to flag up concerns. She'd done a report. They had a meeting scheduled to go through it. It was cancelled within an hour's notice. So for me, of course, some of the things that have gone on are terrible, but I find it, when you look at the culture and integrity of an organisation, it has to come from the top. And Oxfam have failed that.
And I agree with you there. I agree with you there, and I think that the way that the senior management have handled this issue has been really bad. The crisis management has been terrible. But what I would say to that is the UN had a similar issue a decade ago. And what they did was they actually put in procedures, they changed their systems.
June, stop this. This is not true. The whistleblower in Bosnia was fired from the UN. Because she blew the whistle on what was happening with the UN inspector. They were trafficking girls into Bosnia. And trust me, I know about this because my husband's Bosnian. Because it's rubbish what you're saying. Well, OK, so it's rubbish. The whistleblower was fired.
I do think it's time we finish the point you're making.
Yes, so the point I'm making is that was a decade ago. And they realised that there was a problem. They dealt with that problem. And what I'm saying is, why can't we say the same for Oxfam? They help far too many people to let the behaviour...
Why should they have to be told? Why should they have to be told not to abuse? It's my subject.
No, but this is... It's your subject, but that doesn't mean...
No, but I'm just saying, why should they have to be told not to abuse people?
No, but the numbers that are abusing are quite small. But that's not the point. But that's not the argument I would make. I think it's been incredibly damaging to Oxfam.
Yes.
It's incredibly damaging.
I agree, and
I think it's been incredibly damaging to the whole aid sector, and I suspect people will give less for a period because of it. And I think it is very... I was also concerned... What interested me was... I've never been a great fan of the Charity Commission, which I'm not sure does much, right? It's supposed to be a regulator, but I don't think it
didn't help that woman Olive. Do you remember?
No, I don't think it regulates.
Begging letter?
Yes, Olive.
But if you look, what they say of what happened was they were told that Oxfam were investigating inappropriate sexual behaviour. Now,
could mean anything.
We're all journalists, but but surely the next question you ask...
What?
What? Tell me about it. Give me some more. If you're the regulator and you get something that says there is inappropriate sexual behaviour, you immediately ask for more information. And it appears either they didn't or Oxfam lied, and that I can't quite work out.
Important I get the word from Oxfam in. This is what they've been saying, so let's get the statement out. The behaviour of some members of Oxfam staff uncovered in Haiti in 2011 was totally unacceptable, contrary to our values and the high standards we expect of our staff. As soon as we became aware of the allegations, we immediately launched an internal investigation. They go on. 4 members of staff were dismissed as a result of the investigation. 3, including the country director, resigned before the end of the investigation. Allegations that underage girls may have been involved were not proven. There ended the statement. June, to come to you, and I think Greg's touched a lot on what I want to say. Do you accept that the reputational damage is extraordinary?
I accept that.
Oxfam, which was started in 1943, I think it was, by a group of mostly Quakers in Oxford, hence the and it was to help families across... So it might interest some viewers how the name came about, to help families in suffering through World War II. It lost its way when it became a quasi-political organisation, and it sought to...
And it has been very political in the last few years.
Yes, and it sought to lecture us. And I'm sure there are other perils of capitalism, and I'm sure it was a good idea to hire the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse to gallop over Westminster Bridge or whatever bridge it was. Do you agree, then, that an element of what Carole said, this sort of preening, pious, holier-than-thou, better than you, that is now bounced very badly for them because they've over-politicised their role?
I agree, but I do not believe that that means that an organisation that does so much good should be disbanded because of that.
In fairness to Carole, 1 second, she said it needs to be stopped and then reviewed, and then we review whether the money goes back. She's not called for it to be completely shut down.
So we should stop giving money. What are you saying?
No, what I'm saying is that the people who are doing this, because it's emerging now that lots of aid organisations are magnets for paedophiles, because people in these countries that are devastated by poverty and famine, there's no checks. The paedophiles know there are no checks, so they are joining aid organisations. And this has been said by the president of Haiti this week. It's been said by various other organisers, by Professor Andrew MacLeod. He said exactly that.
I don't think you should make that only about charities.
No, I mean, I'm just saying that
there is a thing in all this.
Any organisation with vulnerable people.
No, but in this they talk about references. they didn't tell somebody. Actually, references have become a joke in this country.
Yeah.
Nobody will write anything in a reference in case, because the person you're writing about can sue you. But also, the only way to take up references is to chase people and talk to them and find out.
Yeah.
But and I think references is, and I can understand why Oxfam didn't move. I mean, the person I feel for, it's personal. I mean, Caroline Thompson, who is the chairman, who is an old friend of mine.
Well, to remind everyone, very senior at the BBC, of course.
He was very senior at the BBC, but I was at university with her as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, I remember that. But was also involved in the Jimmy Savile problems with Newsnight, remember?
Why
because she took this job last year. And if you take a job like... the last thing you do when you take a job like this is go in saying, you do. You ask, are there any things I ought to know? But they never tell you.
But, Greg, you don't express confidence in the CEO as she has at the moment. No, do you have confidence in Mark Golding at the moment?
Why is he being allowed? Why is he being allowed to continue?
Well, deputy heads must roll.
Come on. He wasn't there at the time.
But the deputy head has resigned.
Yes,